Janae, the presentation looks very well. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have you here with us. And please, I just presented you to the audience. I hope you understood some of what I said, but I just presented you as the relevant role that EDUCAUSE has in education and technology, and the great work that you and Janae have been doing in terms of understanding the impact of AI in the educational system. So please go ahead. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much for having us today. We're very excited to be chatting with everybody, and hopefully this provides some good insight about what's happening with AI that we see across the higher education world. My name is Krista Kopp. I am the Vice President of Research and Analytics at EDUCAUSE. I'm fairly new to EDUCAUSE. I am a recovering CIO at a university in Los Angeles, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles this morning. So Janae, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Janae Robert. I am a senior researcher at EDUCAUSE, and a lot of my work has revolved around AI over the last couple of years. So I'm excited to present to you the work that I've done and the work that my other colleagues here at EDUCAUSE have done.
Wonderful. So just to frame our conversation this morning, we look across all of the research that we're doing in AI this morning, and three words came to mind as I was looking through all of this data, and I just want to kind of, set it up to talk about these things. We see that humans are really as we've all heard, the human in the loop. We talk about agency, that we as humans have the ability to make informed decisions, to decide how AI is going to impact our institutions, how it's going to impact us personally. We have a lot of work that we get to do in this, and a lot of decisions that we need to make. The other thing that we see in our research, and Janae is going to talk a lot about this, is how the connections work between the AI and people. Where is the trust? Where are the relationships? How are we seeing AI make a difference in how we connect to each other? And then the last thing is about resilience, really being able to adapt and recover and keep going through this immense time of change. So these are going to be themes that you're going to see throughout this chat this morning. Since Janae is one of our senior researchers at EDUCAUSE, she is going to share the bulk of the research this morning, and then I'll come back at the end and wrap it up with some final thoughts. All right, Janae, take it over.
Thank you. So one of the resources I first want to point you to before I get into the data is this EDUCAUSE AI library we have on our website. I put the link here on the slide. I put the QR code as well for you to get there. You can also just Google EDUCAUSE AI library and you'll get to it. But this is where we have a lot of different articles written by the community. We have our research. We have professional learning opportunities, courses people can take, webinars, all sorts of events, and most of that should be linked from here. But I'm also going to share with you specific reports and other resources as we go through the course of our slides. So first, just want to acknowledge that AI is absolutely impacting every area of life, not just higher education, but the way people are communicating with each other, the way that companies are advertising to us, the way people are disseminating information. AI is really impacting everything. And higher education is, of course, no exception. But our community is rising to that challenge. And so what we've seen in our research, particularly our qualitative research that we call Horizon Research, and that this looks ahead at what impacts of current trends could be in the future. Our community is really telling us that they're rising to this AI challenge in ways that, like finding appropriate uses for AI-enabled technology, supporting AI fluency and critical digital literacy. And I think this is a really important one, that we're understanding the importance of higher education, not only for helping our students prepare for the workforce, but also preparing for being citizens in a digital world. What does that look like? How do we navigate this as AI increases its impact on the broader landscape? And then, of course, all of the things that we know about protecting data privacy and security, navigating misinformation, and of course, evolving our teaching practices. It's also really notable that institutions in higher education are increasing their focus on AI over time. So we've been doing this research, this very focused line of AI related research since 2024. And in 2024, 49% of respondents to one of our large studies said that their institution views AI as a strategic priority. And this has risen last year, reported to 57% of respondents reported that they agree or strongly agree that they view AI as a strategic priority. So we can see that at the highest levels of the institution, at strategy level, this is making an impact. One step down from that, thinking about how strategy feeds into policy, we are also seeing impacts there that are increasing over time. So again, returning to those large studies that I mentioned, these are called our AI landscape studies. You can see that there's been an increase from 2024 to 2025 in the percent. So it's the second set of bars there. Of people who say, yes, we have an AI-related acceptable use policy. This has also increased year over year. And then going down from there, we're moving down sort of in grain size, if you will, looking at the specific policies that have been impacted in the discrete areas across the institution. You know, I think a couple of years ago, our community was very much focused on the impact AI was having on teaching and learning, and rightfully so. This is one of the biggest areas of impact that we're seeing, but it is by no means the only impact area. And in every one of these areas that we see impact, that impact has increased year over year. And so what you can see on the screen is data and analytics, technology, business and operations, cybersecurity and data privacy, research, and then teaching and learning. And you see the differences in the percent of people from year to year saying that policy is being impacted in these areas. And then in every line here, you see this increase, except of course, teaching and learning had really nowhere to go, is already at the top of the list at 95%. But so that the kind of the take home message so far here is that we are seeing wide impacts, broad impacts, but also increasing impacts in every area of the institution. Importantly, this is an area that we're digging deeper into. We have been digging a little deeper into recently. And so looking at the impact on our workforce. So similarly, in our large landscape studies from 2024 to 2025, we saw an increase in the percent of respondents who said that they have work-related responsibilities related to AI. So that went from 54 to 61%. And that would account, I think, for, let's say, more formal types of responsibilities for individuals. And there are other ways that we're seeing these formal impacts on the workforce. So this slide shows you non-leadership positions being restructured, non-leadership positions being created, leadership positions being created, and leadership positions being restructured. And you can see that, again, you know, I sound like a broken record here, but year over year, increase in the percent of respondents who say that these positions are being restructured and created at their institution because of the need for AI. And that can look like anything from somebody's job now formally includes some new AI-related responsibilities. It also can include really big things like institutions perhaps hiring a new executive level AI officer, for example. And so these impacts, again, wide ranging across the institution, and then also increasing over time. So recently, this is one of our newest research reports out of EDUCAUSE about the impact of AI on work in higher education. And I have to tell you that as a researcher, I live for these moments where I'm digging through the data and I see this number that is just maybe something close to what I expected, but a really impactful moment for me. So when I first looked at these data, I can tell you it was surprising to me. I expected to see a lot of people saying that they have used AI tools for work in the past 6 months, but having 94% of people say that they have used AI tools for work in the last 6 months was pretty surprising to me. And then even more surprising was the frequency of use. So 38% said that they use these tools daily. 34% say that they use these tools weekly, 22% monthly, and then 6% less than once per month. So here again, the summary being that the majority of our research respondents are saying that they do use AI tools for work, and then over 2/3 of them saying that's either daily or weekly, so quite frequent. What's really interesting, I think, about this frequent use of AI tools for work across the institution is that it is primarily voluntary. So we asked respondents, do you want to use AI tools for work? Are you required to use AI tools for work? Most of the respondents, 86%, said that they want to be using AI tools for work, and just 11% said that they are required to do so. And when I talk about these findings, I really want to impress upon institutional leaders the importance of data like this. So this really indicates that AI is creating a ground-up movement of people who are voluntarily engaging in using the technology, regardless of where the institution sits in terms of strategy or even desire or appetite for the AI tools. This is something that we are seeing from the ground up. We've also tried to dig a little deeper into the specific reasons people are using AI or the specific use cases for AI tools in our institutions. It's probably a good time to say that most of these data that I'm presenting to you are international populations, but the majority are still in the US. So I would say about 85%, give or take, depending on the specific study, are going to be US respondents, and then about 15% or so outside of the US. So I'd be very curious to hear how these use cases for AI or these impacts of AI are different at your specific institution. But this is what we're seeing kind of across that population, and typically not seeing significant differences between our US respondents and our non-US respondents. So here, coming back to the slide, the top 5 student uses that we've seen from our research. This is from our annual Students in Technology report. This is a report that we publish every year about how students are engaging in technology and what they want and what they need. And so from the 2025 version of that report, we reported that students are using AI tools for brainstorming, refining ideas and questions, outlining and organizing, analyzing data, drafting papers. Interestingly, from this particular study, 43% of our respondents say that they do not use generative AI for their courses at all. I think that that's a deeper conversation that we could have maybe in the Q&A if someone finds that to be an interesting data point. But I just want to comment on that because it is something that stands out in the sense that all of the research we read across the community, not just out of EDUCAUSE, really reports on very varying numbers when it comes to student use. And I think that has a lot to do not only with the likelihood of students to report that they're using AI tools, but it also, I think, has a lot to do with local culture, whether it's institutional culture or disciplinary culture, whatever the case is. It has to do with, I think, that sort of need to collect local data to understand AI use in the local context. So just calling that out. And then top 5 staff and faculty uses on the right side of the slide, really not very different. Brainstorming, drafting emails, summarizing documents and meetings, proofreading, creating presentations. What's similar across all of this is that we're seeing AI tools being used at a very high level. We don't have very high proportions of respondents indicating that they're using AI tools for highly specialized uses. You can think about things like engineering or chemistry or, art. There are all these very specific use cases across disciplinary areas. And we don't see a lot of that reported in our surveys. And I think that this probably has to do with the popularity of the tools that are available and how good the tools are that are available for these various types of tasks. So the most popular tools that were cited by staff and faculty are here on this slide. The top few, I'll just name them off, so I won't go through the whole list, but ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, Notebook LM. We're really seeing a lot of concentration in the chatbot space. I think this is the most popular way that people in higher ed are engaging with AI tools right now. Just as another example of a data point for that, 48% of respondents to our 2025 AI landscape study said that they have either an institution-wide site license for a chatbot or their institution has created one in-house, which is less likely the case. That's obviously an expensive and less popular endeavor, but most are about half of the respondents saying that they do have access to a chatbot through their institution. And so kind of taking all of this together, we really want to focus on the so what of it all, right? Okay, so we know AI is impacting every area across the institution. We know that this use is increasing. We know people are using it a lot. So what? Is this good? Is this bad? And I didn't include this in this slide deck just because of the length of time that we have together today, but we have a lot of data around the opportunities that people see and the risks that people see when it comes to using AI tools for higher education. And I will say that the community sees both sides of the coin. They see that there's tremendous opportunity, and they're also quite concerned about many risks that in some cases are quite serious. And so for leaders, there are some pathways that we can look at more closely in terms of how leaders can support effective and appropriate use of AI tools in higher education. One of the things we want to address is procurement. So we published a quick poll last year on AI-related procurement issues. In that survey, less than half of respondents say that their procurement processes address unique AI-related product issues. These are things like the security of your institutional data for third-party vendors who might be training AI algorithms, or compliance with AI-related laws and regulations. We know, of course, as one of the leaders in that space, the EU has their AI Act. More and more every day in the United States, we're seeing state-level AI-related legislation being passed. And institutions have to be aware of those types of issues when they're procuring data. So there's quite a bit of AI-specific concern when it comes to procurement, especially as these areas are evolving. And then I did note to you here, protections for intellectual property is another major concern when it comes to the procurement of AI tools. Specifically within higher education. And I think that this might be a concern that is more relevant to higher education than into some other sectors, because we are a sector that is known to generate knowledge and create new knowledge. And rightfully, our faculty are concerned about that knowledge inappropriately being shared with AI algorithms in a way that could propagate that information without the appropriate type of credit. And then on the right side of the slide is a quote from one of our respondents who just is kind of trying to explain why institutions might not be addressing AI-related product issues. So, for example, this person says, "We have tried to explain to procurement the importance of AI in considering products, but we have not made much progress. And this is where we start to think about the connection piece that Krista commented on in the beginning of the slideshow. So higher education has a pretty good reputation for being siloed, for different areas of higher education to be disconnected from others, and that is true within institutions as much as it is true across institutions. So this is certainly an area where building those bridges between people who are AI experts, people who are procuring AI, and so forth is going to be one of the main ways that we recommend improving this concern. Similarly, we saw in our impact on work survey that 46% of respondents said they are not aware of work-related AI policies and guidelines. Now remember, 94% of respondents said, I use AI tools for work and in the last 6 months, and then 2/3 of them, it's weekly or daily. And so for only about half to say that they for almost half to say that they are not aware of policies and guidelines to guide this use, this is quite concerning. And similar to that, 56% of respondents said that they have used a tool that has not been provided by their institution for work-related tasks. And this is a concern because of what I was talking about on the previous slide, that if an institution is not considering AI-related issues in the procurement of tools, it can be harder to control some of those negative impacts related to privacy and security, regulation, making sure that we're meeting legal requirements and so forth. So I never want to give you just a bunch of problems with EDUCAUSE research and say, here's all the challenges and risks that we've seen. I also want to be able to give you some insight into where we go from here. And so in particular, we do a lot of work with the community and thinking about what is the future that we want to see, what is the ideal future. And so here are just some examples. We envision a future where AI outputs are equal and unbiased. We are using AI tools to increase access and accessibility to education. We're improving critical thinking skills, enhancing human relationships, providing people with real-time learning analytics and personalized digital assistance. There are a number of reports available from EDUCAUSE that will help you in terms of specific actions that our community recommends taking, whether you're at the individual contributor level or you're coordinating all the way up to institutional leadership or cross-institutional collaboration. And Francisco has these slides, so he can definitely share these with you if you want more, be able to access these links later. And then I'm just gonna hand it over to Krista to just give you a brief exit here, and then hopefully we can take a couple of questions.
Yep, so just wanna kind of wrap that up. As Janae mentioned several different times, you know, we really see the human piece of all of this. It's really important that we have to find a way to find connection while we're using AI, both amongst ourselves and with each other. And so in our top 10 report, this was one of the major themes that came across, even though we see AI across all of the things that are happening, making connections with each other is going to be really critical. Janae, go ahead to the next slide. The one of the ways that we do this at EDUCAUSE is actually through our community groups. We have full community groups for our members to talk with peers and industry experts about things. This is a member thing that we offer. But one of the other things that we actually do is have a lot of professional development. And you do not have to be a member to attend any of our professional development. Go ahead and come to the next slide. But anybody is welcome to go to our events. We have a specific page about AI events. These are events that we are that concentrate on teaching with technology or using AI for instructional design or just the staff in general. And so we are those are open for anybody, and we welcome our international community to join us in those conversations. And then finally, I just want to lead you with this thought, right? That we get to lead with agency. So lead with intentionality about how AI is going to be used at your institution, and design for connection, because the thing that is going to be important is how we as humans show up within the AI. And continue to build for resilience and agility. So looking for ways that you can be flexible when things happen with AI, including it breaking, it not working, it giving wrong answers, right? So all of those things have to be something that you have to consider when we're thinking about how AI is impacting us right now. So with that, we have I don't know, from a timing perspective, Francisco, if you, but thank you. Hopefully that was useful.
Well, Janae and Krista, thank you very much. It was very, very useful, very interesting. I have a few questions that we were gathering, discussing earlier, but let me first of all thank you very much. Very interesting your invitation, and I will speak a little in English to reinforce your final message that I believe is very interesting. La invitación de Krista yo creo que es muy interesante observarla y tomarla a punto. Creo que participar en eventos como EDUCAUSE son oportunidades muy valiosas de enriquecimiento, de contactar, de establecer oportunidades. Mucho de lo que nosotros hacemos en EDUTIC lo hemos ido tomando de experiencias que hemos tenido en eventos de EDUCAUSE. Así que es una invitación que agradecemos a Krista y creo que es muy bueno repetirla. Switching back to Spanish, to English, one of the questions that I do have for probably either you, Krista, and you, Janae, the point that you were, there are two things that I wanted to comment. I wanted to see your reaction about that. Is that it's surprising to see that something like 43% of students declare that they don't use any Gen AI in classes, and it's a very, very surprising number. And you have some explanation that is probably related with the culture, and whether the students are willing or not to inform us that they're using. Probably they feel guilty because probably they think it's something like cheating. And in the other side, you were commenting the distance between the way that I use AI personally and the way the institution helps me use AI. And AI is moving so quickly, the development, the control is. What are you seeing, and what would be your comments on how do you develop the capability for your organization to be able to move up to that speed? Is it possible? What are you seeing in terms of the institutions that are able to speed up their ability to really take that AI opportunity and deploy it within their organizations?
I think one of the things that's super interesting about the data is that there's a lot of nuances in it, right? So depending on what a student is actually studying will depend on how much AI exposure they're having, whether their degree is in music or is in the sciences or in history, is going to have a large impact on their use, and also their professors' attitudes towards their use of AI as well. So we see that there's a lot of differences out there in how people are approaching it from a distant or discipline specific thing. But Janae, I can let you chat a little bit more about that. But one thing I do just want to say is I think the schools that we see that are moving it along, if you will, or schools that are seeing a lot of implementations have really been intentional. So that goes to that agency. How are we intentionally putting this into those particular disciplines? How are we helping our faculty and students use it? Janae, do you want to add something?
Yeah, so I definitely hear the challenge and the question around how quickly institutions can move. This is a long-standing problem, not just with AI. This is something that we have dealt with for decades. I think that we learned during the pandemic when we all had to very quickly adjust to an external constraint that if we really have to, we can. So I want to start from that mindset. If we have to, we can. And we have to, we really have to. But as I said, I don't like to only give you problems and challenges. We have a lot of resources around this. So I'm going to link in the chat a landing page from EDUCAUSE about institutional resilience. And to me, this is an institutional resilience question. We are living in digitally driven times, and institutions need to rise to that challenge in a way that they never have before. And so we've collected a variety of resources here, but specifically we talk about things like building those flexible processes that perhaps in the past were not as flexible. We no longer live in a time where we can afford to assign 12 committees to make one decision. We don't have that time anymore. So what does this look like? Not getting rid of our shared governance models, because that's important and it's part of who we are in higher ed. It's part of our identity. How do we retain that shared governance but move much more quickly through? And again, we did it in 2020 and we can do it now.
Well, that's a interesting invitation. We agree with in the terms of the resilience. And let me just to finish. Let me give you the chance to explore the future a little and try to imagine if you were of course the adoption of AI is being growing very quickly, almost exponentially. So it is actually exponentially in terms of the growth. And the impact of education probably is not it's not so quick, but it is happening. And probably the main conversation that we had during this Congress has to do with that we're going to starting to see many and a bigger number of organizations of higher education institutions that are implementing deeply rooted AI capabilities. What would you say would be the trends? What would be if we would meet next year, probably what would be the state or what would be the main points that you would probably imagine would be interesting to explain, to see, to observe, looking toward the future.
Krista, do you want to start, or I can? Whatever you want.
Yeah. Why don't you start and then I'll.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
go ahead.
I mean, I really think that what I anticipate, and the question really is time frame here. Will it be 1 year? Will it be 10 years? I think that as institutions decide to approach the grand challenge of AI differently, and as AI becomes more normalized and less of, Krista talks about this, AI will be eventually be less of a special topic and it'll just be the waters that we swim in, right? So I think as that process starts to work out at a societal level and at a global level, what we'll see in higher education is institutions that are differentiating a little bit more. We will still have these AI first institutions, but I'm not going to be surprised when the day comes that we have some institutions that are coming out with strong, let's say, in-person, three-dimensional, face-to-face, lower tech stances in some ways. And I think we'll see this coming out of liberal arts education institutions that are perhaps smaller. And this is where some concern around digital equity gaps arises for me. So are we going to have students who can afford this more boutique experience and really double down on some of those skills? Yeah.
Kind of a reversed digital bridge. That's something like that. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
go ahead.
no problem.
Go ahead.
I think, we've seen this model before with when the internet was actually introduced to our higher education institutions. We saw the different race. We saw everybody. I think that process took slower than this process is taking. But we saw institutions who jumped all in with MOOCs, and we saw institutions that were like, yeah, we will never teach online, right? And we saw the whole range of everybody. And then, of course, that changed because everybody had to go online. And a lot of those institutions that were not willing to go online when they were
Mhm.
forced to, it really sort of changed their thinking.
Yes.
And
That's
so I think that we're going through a very similar revolution here. It's actually
yes.
following the same path, just at a much quicker speed. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that thing that Janae mentioned this, but we don't have a choice here, right? Like so the choice has already been taken for us whether or
Yes.
not we address it, but we do
Uh-huh.
have a lot of agency about how we're going to address it and how it's going to look in higher education. So I think we need to acknowledge the moment and then
Mhm.
actually make decisions about how it's going to change our institutions.
Well, I love your approach. Both of you have approach. We need to take this chance and this opportunity head on, first of all, and also it's very interesting the point that you make that this has happened somewhat differently, but there are many things that are very similar before, and we many of us lived through that and
Yep.
survived it. So
Yep.
that's an important aspect to incorporate. So, Krista and Janae, thank you very much. It
Thank
was
you.
a very interesting presentation. I think you have added a lot of bullet points additionally to the conversation that we're having here in terms of
Wonderful.
the the, the adoption of AI, and we're very grateful and be really looking forward to have further opportunities to connect and contact and collaborate. And we will keep sending the invitation for people to participate in the EDUCAUSE events, which I really support and sponsor because they are a great opportunity. So thank you
Wonderful.
very much,
Thank you so
Krista,
much for
Janae.
having us.
Lovely to see you.
All right.
Thank
Bye
Thank
you.
bye.
you
Bye
very much.
bye.
Okay, bye bye, bye bye. Vamos a cambiar al español ahora. Bueno, muchas gracias a los que nos acompañaron. Fue un evento un poco más en inglés. Queremos también, hay que ver la conversación global, cómo está ocurriendo, muy interesante. Vamos con un tiempo un poco atrasado, invitarlos ahora a que se puedan conectar a los foros que vienen a continuación, agradecerles la paciencia y la participación. La presentación de Gmail va a estar disponible en la plataforma y pues nada, muchas gracias por participar en esta componente de este evento y nos continuamos viendo durante este último día del Congreso EDUTIC. Muy buenos días a todos y a todas.